Welcome back. This is K24 this morning, the second half of your newspaper review. You can get those views in at I am Jeff Morton or at K24 TV. You can also get me with the WhatsApp number that's scrolling at the bottom of your screen. And in case you've missed that big headline on the front page of the PD, EACC saying KEMSA scandal will shock many Kenyans. You can get that particular copy of your PD straight to your phone. It's only 10 shillings and the number that you need is *550*4#. Once again, that number is *550*4#. Dial that number and get yourself a copy of your People Daily straight to your phone. It's brought to you by the People Daily and Safaricom as well. So once again, the number *550*4#. Dial it and get yourself a copy of your PD, regardless of where you are right across this country, even as we talk about the big issues of the day. We have a WhatsApp message in. As we wait for that, we'll look at it in just a bit. Keep them coming in, of course, the WhatsApp number scrolling at the bottom of the screen. As we talk about this particular issue, Joy, I want to look at it from the point of view that we have a CEO in EACC talking about the fact that this is a big and wide case that will take time to process. The case has very many angles, including financial, procurement, and very many other instances and things that they need to look at. But is it only in the Kenyan jurisdiction where this is a problem? Because let's look at the Chicken Gate scandal that we had in terms of the IEBC and what happened there. We have their colleagues in the UK who are prosecuted, have done time, and have been released, yet we've still never gotten to the bottom of this. Is this the scapegoat we use that because it's financial, so we can't follow the maze of trails and how the money moved, and hopefully Kenyans will forget about it?
With the measures that were introduced in financial management in Kenya, now you cannot move money of a certain amount without using the banking system. So paper trail is not necessarily now paper trail, it's an electronic trail. If you really want to follow the money, you'll be able to follow the money. The thing with this particular scandal is that it's not just money that seems to have vanished into thin air, it's more of the goods that seem to have vanished into thin air. And then people are paid for delivering nonsense. So you can follow the paper trail and find, oh, the money was wired from Joy's account all the way into Arnold's account. The trick is in finding out, did Arnold actually deliver what he said to have delivered? That's where this scandal seems to be turning on its head. You talked about whether it's just in our borders. I think there was communique from the German government saying that there were some face masks that were missing from the airport. And so you get to a place where, okay, there's Jack Ma stuff that seems to be missing, and this stuff is missing and then resupplied to government, and the government pays for something that was given for free. That's where the whole scandal lies. Therefore, with the EACC, I wish they would take their time with this, because how you look at it in terms of law, you have to prove that if it's a conspiracy, you have to prove that there was actually collusion between two parties to execute a crime. If there was no collusion, then there's no conspiracy. If there was no actual theft, like you saw with the Waluke case, you're able to exploit to say, you know what, it was a contractual obligation. I was paid because the contract said by Tariff Lane I should be paid. If they are not ready on their side, it was not my fault. With me, I was ready to supply. So those are the two little things I think that would sort of muddy the waters. But in terms of where this particular scandal is coming, you realize it's procurement systems that are indeed followed, but prices that are inflated because of it was an emergency, stuff that was paid for that was not delivered, stuff that was delivered that was supposed to be free that was actually paid for, and the rest of it is, of course, where people are using shadowy companies to do business with government when they're not actually delivering anything. And we've gotten to a place where, as Kenyans, I think, we are not expecting much, yes, as you said, but of necessity, we have to get to the bottom of this, because the donor communities and agencies have already waded in. Global Fund have said that we're not sending any more money. The donor community gave them 14 days. We want answers to how the first 400 billion was used. Otherwise, the next is not coming. So we've come to a place where we are actually in real danger of losing face internationally. So it's in our interest that we not only get to the bottom of this, but we unravel. Because one of the things that I must agree with Arnold, the weak link here has been the National Assembly. Our procurement laws and systems, the laws themselves and the software, the systems, were designed with loopholes in them so that they can be exploited. It's time to just button all these things up so that in future, we actually have a process that works. Because we, like Justice says, we have the software, we have the hardware. Can we not just make it work? It's not that difficult.
We have some WhatsApp messages that are coming in. Probably could have one of those up on screen even as we proceed. Of course, the WhatsApp number scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Let's have that up. I think the government systems tasked with investigations are compromised politically to the extent the fight against corruption is untenable and an imaginary tale. As Kenyans, we are used to that. So no surprises right there, no shockers right there. Arnold, let me come to you on this one, because even as you move forth from the front page of the People Daily, the other front pages is all about Raila's statement, his stake in the COVID scandal. And it almost feels like at this particular point, we had one member of parliament speaking about the fact that really it's parliament that should be asked these questions. Raila is a citizen like anybody else. Why is he on the front page of the Daily Nation taking heat in the COVID scandal, yet he's not in government, Arnold?
Because I think as a nation we are not civically as woke as we are thought to be. We are not woke, civically speaking. Because like I said earlier on, if you read the first 4 words of our preamble in the Constitution, says, we, the people of Kenya. It's about us. That very preamble at the end of it still talks about us adopting, taking it on, and for us and our children. Then you will come to Article 10 about public participation. The Constitution 2010 is heavily about citizen participation. It's heavily about active participation. We cannot outsource that to an individual. Raila is not just a common, of course, any other citizen. Like I said, he is a diplomat, by the way. Mm-hmm. So you do not expect a diplomat. You know, diplomats have got ways of saying difficult words and even getting into insults without necessarily looking like it's an insult. You can actually clap at a diplomat, even as he insults you. Mm-hmm. So I know he's put his voice out there. It's important that he puts his voice out there so that he continues retaining. And I'm not hoping that he's doing that to just ensure that we are busy. So even as we ask what Raila can do, it's also important that we ask, what are we doing as individuals? Mm-hmm. I have said, and I will repeat, we are not serious citizens. Largely, very few of us are serious citizens. And when I talk about a serious citizen, I'm talking about an active citizen. What does active citizenship really entails? Then coming back, by the way, Raila also enjoys his Article 32 rights. Raila has got a right to believe and opinion and give opinion, whatever he chooses. So that also is his right. And I said he owes us nothing. Even for those of us who took him to Uhuru Park, he probably doesn't owe us as much. This is what we wanted and it didn't go. I know at this particular time it's easy to look down on the handshake, but lest we forget the handshake gave us the stability we needed. I would like the country to also remember that imagine with COVID, with things going south, and you have got the stalemate we had living from 2017 through to 2018. We might not really be having a country as we are. So there are those challenges. So other than ask what Raila can do, can we ask what we as individuals are doing about it? And it's easy, but it's not difficult. This is not rocket science. It's just about you asking your MP. Do your damn job as my MP. He will hear you out. He will act. But the only place we argue is on Twitter. And by the way, Twitter, we are only 2 million Kenyans on Twitter. 8 million of them on Facebook. The rest of you are just out there. Do something TikTok. Wherever you are.
Justice, I want to get you in on this one as well, because we're looking at a particular crime coming at, if there was ever a bad time to have a scandal take place, this really is it. We're having lots of unemployment and layoffs taking place. You saw Kenya Airways, having to, do another branch or another tranche of layoffs happening. We've seen businesses shut all across the country. Very many people trying to just make ends meet economically. Health-wise, even as it stands right now, Kenya 8th as far as COVID-19 death cases on the continent. That's where it stands right now. What really would make, the electorate, the citizenry, angry enough to actually take it upon themselves? Because right now, it still seems like we're waiting for Raila Odinga, waiting for someone else to do something about this.
Thank you. Let me make a comment on why I think Raila is, for the very first time when it comes to, the war on corruption is, let me use this word, prevaricating and circumlocuting for almost the very first time. I think the magnetic fields of corruption is pulling some of his close friends too close to the burning fire. And at the bedroom of corruption at KEMSA, I suspect very strongly. And that is why he's a bit stammering, he's a bit prevaricating on this matter, he's a bit circumlocuting, he's not very clear. And I do not believe that Raila is an ordinary man. Raila exercises a lot of political patronage in this country at the moment. Raila itself is an institution. He speaks and we listen. And therefore, his word, when they stammers, when they prevaricate over this matter of war on corruption, on COVID funds being stolen, I think he sends a very wrong and wrong signal to the public. And in terms of the fact that while people are losing jobs, others are feasting and celebrating and looting, I think it is not merely about a legal matter. It's a moral question. It is akin to committing murder. It's akin to killing patients in hospitals. It's akin to, killing when you supply fake PPEs to the, frontline workers. I think that in itself, it's like committing murder. It's like, in terms of being mindful of both the welfare of the patients and the staff that have, given their lives to fight this monster, COVID-19. I think it is a moral question. I think it is something that we need to look at our software internally and say, where did we go wrong as a country? And I agree that, like my friend said, we need to be angry as a country, as citizens. I think we've left this battle on corruption to the politicians for too long and the institutions. I think it is a collective effort. Both the institutions that are basically and legally charged with the fight against corruption, and also include the citizens, and of course the oversight institutions like the Senate and the Parliament. And those are the institutions that I think have not played their role well, because I think where some of these the so-called deep state have played their cards well is that they have invited some of these politicians to supply air to some of these to KEMSA, and therefore they know the next time they go to Parliament, they want to take a strong political stand against the government. You'll be told your file is already ready. Let's meet in court. And the danger of the Parliament and the executive going to bed is that you weaken the capacity of the institutions that are meant to oversight the executive by the fact that some of these politicians, some of them in Parliament, are already doing business with the government. Some of them, of course, you've heard the story of some of the senators who are in the committee that are oversighting COVID-19. Some of them are suppliers of KEMSA. And now there is already a conflict of interest. The capacity to oversight is undermined greatly. And therefore, at the end of the day, as a country, we do not have an institution that can be able to really oversight strongly and be able to bring out the rot that is bedeviling some of these institutions like KEMSA. So I think it is a moral question. We need to go back and say, what do we need to do? Where did we go wrong? And how do we turn direction left?
And even as you look at how we turn direction left, it comes at a point in time where, as everyone looks at Raila Odinga, as the dailies point out in his statement right there, we also have the Jubilee party, Jubilee SG as well. Raphael Tuju telling leaders with information to give it to investigators. Jubilee party now also calling for a comprehensive audit on what's going on right here. So it seems like the handshake has also taken a different turn, even on this particular one, to read from the same script. What's your make of that at this particular point in time? Because it seems like everybody should have their own stance on this, but it seems like, Joy, if you say something, because we're in the handshake, I will echo what you've just said.
Sometimes the hypocrisy of it all is a little bit amusing. Because, I mean, in this country, mere allegations have had people labeled. We've had lots of corruption, princes of poverty, and other such things.
The Lord of poverty.
Yes, but we've never had uncontroverted audits that are done to convince us that this is the case. But here we have a situation where people are calling for a comprehensive and conclusive audit before we can conclude that COVID funds were stolen. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous, the hypocrisy of it all. Why? It's because there is usually no smoke without fire. And if this has been said, then you'd expect not, and this is not ordinary Wananchi. These are the people with the machineries, the infrastructure to determine whether or not there's anything here. If they are saying, if you've got information, come forward, what do they expect me to do as an ordinary citizen? They're the ones who can pick up a call and say, you know what, I want a report at the end of the day on my desk. What we saw the president doing. I want regular updates on what you guys are doing concerning this matter. I want answers. They're not the ones to be telling us, if you've got information, please step forward. Why? Because they're in power. But when you come here telling us, you know what, unless it's uncontroverted, you're telling us you want an audit done, a conclusive audit done. We've not had an Auditor General for almost 2 years. The pile on her desk that she has to clear from what was pending from before, when is she coming to audit KEMSA for us to have a conclusive report before action is taken? We need to get serious in this country sometimes. There are times when once something has been mentioned, and that, I think, was a failure in us, again, National Assembly, allowing them to water down the Integrity and Leadership Bill, Act, to a level where you have to wait until all your appeals are exhausted, all the tribunals are exhausted before you can take responsibility. We need to be like other countries where the moment there is a problem with your docket, that is where the responsibility starts. Step aside. We might as well reinstate you if you find it was a wrongful stepping aside. But step aside. But this situation we have in Kenya, where people sit pretty knowing, by the time I'm done with court, by the time I'm done with the appeal, by the time I'm done with the Supreme Court, by the time I'm done with whatever other tribunal, it will be 15 years and I'll have done my time anyway. That is why impunity in Kenya thrives. We have allowed the politicians to have their cake and eat it. They write the laws to cushion themselves. And like Arnold said, and I've seen also in the dailies people commenting, it started in Naivasha. When guys decided, you know what, they take away power from everybody else and they invest it in the National Assembly. So we went from having a dictatorship by one person to a dictatorship by 350 people. Now, these 350 people have the potential, if they work as per the law, to give us all these answers that we're asking, even call for those audits. Because they don't have to wait for the Auditor General. They have committees. They can summon people, they can examine documents, and they can issue reports that become actionable. But are they doing that? No, they're part of the people who are asking for statements with anybody the information to step forward. Tuju sits in the cabinet. He's one of the people who can actually
Some people almost forgot he's a CS without portfolio.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
He can put a motion and say, you know what, Mr. President, can we have this discussion and answer Kenyans, because as a party and as an executive, we need to, and then you tell us to bring information if we have. I mean, we need to get serious in this country.
I have some WhatsApp messages that I want us to look very quickly at. Let's have them up on screen. There we go. Amugutu Phineas, in Kenya, people fight hard to get to the political position, not to help poor people, but to loot from the same poor people who elected them into office. We have a good constitution, but not ready to follow it. President should act like Magufuli in Tanzania. Okay, so probably some lessons that could be taken from across the border. Jeff, hakuna surprise, tunangoja Kenya ni ile walio juu ndio hufaidika, sisi ni wananchi wa kawaida tunateseka. Hata fadhali Tanzania ambao tangu COVID ianze hawajawahi pata msaada wa nje. I applaud President Magufuli. Another vote for a president from across the border. Kenyans, it's time we be responsible for what is happening within our government. We did choose it, and let's enjoy the bitter fruits so that next time we choose a government that cares about us. Okay. The Anti-Corruption Agency, DCI, and Prosecution's Office aren't working together for a common goal of punishing the corrupt. Often corruption cases are poorly investigated deliberately and presented to Nordine's office, which then either presents to courts as is and fails in courts, or returns then to Kinoti for more work. So probably at evidence gathering is where the problem is. Good morning. Part 1 is over. They have pocketed ventilators, masks, and PPEs. Part 2 is about to happen, maybe the end of the year. Wait for the vaccines. COVID-19 vaccine billionaire scandal. They'll procure the vaccine and inject us with water.
Jesus.
Wow, quite a slap across the face. You know, Arnold, let me come to you on this one, even as you look at this, because we look at this man who you have said is a continental diplomat working for the high representative for the AU. If we looked at the people who should be asking these questions and who should really be at pains for answering what's going on, first stop, of course, Ministry of Health, CS Kagwe. Do you think at this point he should actually step aside and say, okay, fine, even I don't know what's happening with the cartels, let me step aside and let people get to the bottom of this? Is this the time he does that?
You know, Afya House or Mafia House is symptomatic of what devolution really sought to heal. You look at Schedule 4 and we have got devolved functions, what is devolved and what is national. And at national, a very small bit of health was supposed to be left there, largely policy and of course the national health infrastructure. We have got about 5 hospitals so far. But somehow we have concentrated a lot of power around health. Health has never been fully devolved. somehow the national government twisted the county governments to ensure that we have got the medical equipment. So somebody someplace does procurement for you. And the corruption in this country is largely procurement-based. So long as they hold on to procurement at the top, and we're talking about large procurement amounts, they are still, because devolution is about not just power, it's also about money coming down there, so that it's not about us celebrating that we have got an MCA closer to us. That's not it. So this is where the challenge is. When it comes to Raphael Tuju, I just don't, the lesser that is said of him, the better, because Raphael Tuju has perfected the art of trash talking. Him and trash talking are actually same WhatsApp group. He does that quite so well. And one will understand the kind of office he holds, that you cannot be an SG of a party and be very good to people. So if there is any reason we need to champion for proper devolution, as envisioned in the Constitution, is what is happening at Afya House. When you talk about Kagwe, I am not so sure what to do with him. Like I said last week, he gave a lot of non-answers. Just went round, and he said nothing. And the more this case gets out there, the more you realize that when he talked about draining the swamp, probably the swamp has just drained him. Kagwe is likely to leave that docket and go to another docket, leaving the same infrastructure of the people we keep complaining about there. Because somebody has come up with a tapestry of infrastructure around there that you can't just do away with, because there is no political will to deal with it. And to fight corruption, honestly, it should not be by talking. That's why I am hoping that the president is silent, because he knows it's not for him to talk, it's for him to act. Okay. Yeah.
Justice, I want to bring you in. We have 3 minutes to go even as we wind this particular conversation. He's called himself the new broom that will sweep clean. He's spoken about how he's going to rid Afya or Mafia House of these particular cartels. Does he do that? Does he, fulfill the promise that he gave Kenyans as CS of Health, Mutahi Kagwe?
I doubt whether, I do not entirely blame him in terms of the lack of capacity to deal with the cartels within the precincts and the confines of the now the famously known as the Mafia House. I think the cartels within the Ministry of Health extending to now the famous KEMSA, that has been treated as now the bedroom of grand theft and corruption. I believe the system around the minister himself may not be able to give him sufficient powers. And remember that the minister himself is not in charge of the Ministry of Health in terms of as a technical department. The individuals who run the department in particular is the PS. And therefore, in terms of the powers, the person who exercises real powers administratively within the Ministry of Health legally is the PS. The minister himself only becomes the figurehead of the ministry. So in terms of the sufficient latitude legally and administratively for him to really deal with the cartels, I don't believe he's got the sufficient latitude to deal with the cartels within the Ministry of Health. And then, of course, I also believe some of the people who may have also had their hands in the till could be some of the people known to the minister himself. And in Kenya, we operate emotionally. We make decisions based on our emotions. Is this individual known to me? Is it a political ally? Is he a friend of the system currently? Is he somebody who is most likely meant to support us in the future? Are we in coalition? Those are the decisions that I think the minister makes every day, and some of the time he thinks he's too close to fire and he may not be able to really come and swing and bring the hammer on these menace of corruption at the Ministry of Health.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Justice. Even as we wind up this particular conversation, we have a minute or so to go in studio. Let me start off with you. Joy, what's your parting shot this morning?
My parting shot would be, as a country, we've reached a point of no return. We must dismantle the system. We must dismantle the powers that be. We have gotten to a place where it's no longer working for us. And if we carry on like this, we'll not have a country to even call our own. I'm saying this on the back of what happened in Mali the other day with the coup. When citizens reach the end of their tether, something has got to give. And I think Kenyans have reached that boiling point. And unless we do something to sort of liberate ourselves out of all this, generate enough anger. What Arnold was talking about, put enough heat on our political class, because if we carry on like this, within the next 10 years, we'll have nothing left to bequeath our children.
Okay. Arnold, very quickly as we wind up, your parting shot today.
I need to say this as a parting shot for this Tuesday. Corruption arrives at the ballot, and corruption can only effectively be fought at the ballot. Before watering down of Chapter 6, we had already voted. We cannot continuously vote the same way and expect that there is a change. The turnover in parliament is almost 67% every time we do elections, but their mannerisms and behavior is the same. Let us change the way we vote. That is how we will defeat this particular vice.
Okay, and you leave it at that as far as it's concerned. You have the power to do that as well. So the power is in your vote, as Arnold says, and we take your feedback on this as we continue the conversation online. You can get me at I am Jeff Morte or at K24 TV. And even as we wind up our newspaper review, don't forget, you can get yourself a copy of your People Daily straight to your phone. It's brought to you by the PD and Safaricom, and the number that you dial is *550*4#. Once again, the number *550*4#. Dial it and get yourself a copy of your PD, brought to you by the People Daily and Safaricom. That's why you wind up our newspaper review this morning. Thank you so much for making time. Arnold Maliba, Joy Mbivo, thank you so much for making time in studio and getting us on the conversation via Skype. Justice Minor, thank you so much for making time as well. Asante sana. We will draw the curtains right here on the newspaper review. We come back after the break as we get interactive. Good morning.